All right. Friday night, DC and the Sunshine Man. It's our late night happy hour. Love these shows when they can serve as a post game and especially a local post game. Last night we talked a lot about the Lakers as that whole disaster was going on. We'll hit on the Lakers a little later on, get Dave's take on that. But Golden Knights are the central focus. And, well, I'll tell you, tonight's game was good. The game the other night was unbelievable, but the feeling afterwards, obviously, because the Knights won, is completely different. But they were, in many ways, the same exact game, except that, in overtime, the last game, they got a little break. The Avs did. They took advantage of it, and then you get 2 goals in 45 seconds. It is, Dave, as you said last week, you've been watching hockey a long time. The momentum shifts in hockey really are startling. They're breathtaking. They're freaking awesome, and especially when it goes your way.
Yeah, I mean, it's personal preference, but I don't think there's a better playoff than the NHL playoffs because you see this every year. And now we've got the series that, it's a shame that it's this early in the playoffs. This is the series that I think more fans wanted to see than any other because arguably it's the 2 best teams in the league. And boy, when the Avalanche went up 2-1 in the third period, it's like, oh man, you could be looking at a 4-game sweep in the series of the year. Not anymore. The series is on now. And I don't know what the viewership's going to be on Sunday in terms of all sports fans because hockey just lags behind the others. But in terms of hockey fans, they're all going to be watching on Sunday.
I mean, I hope people are watching. It's a great example of what, 2 top teams can do. The opportunities are plentiful, but the goalies are really good. It's been amazing. The atmosphere was amazing. We'll get into that. I know there's a lot of people checking in, like Brady, who was out there. Section 211, right, Brady? Brady says 0 voice left. Building was rocking tonight. So let's kind of set up the third period there. First of all, when the Avs took the lead, I mean, what a freaking backbreaker. Oh. And again, man, they have some they have some brilliant scores, but like in the midst of talking about the fact that they took a 2-1 lead is the fact that the Knights defense has done a brilliant job of limiting their opportunities.
Well, it has, but I mean, one thing that's been repeated in this series in each of the 3 games, you cannot put this team on the power play. I mean, they are just devastating on the power. It's the best power play in the league. And I mean, it's scary. And that's something the Knights have to maintain discipline. They've done a good job the last 2 games of not taking bad penalties. There was one tonight, kind of a fluke when the puck went over the glass. But you have to avoid that against this team. 5-on-5, Knights are playing really well, and they want to keep it 5-on-5. And AJ just said the same thing. I mean, that's really a huge key moving forward in this series. Don't take any bad penalties.
Brady said his son got to see a real sports atmosphere. That wasn't was that his first? That can't be his first hockey game. My God, if that's the first game you ever get to see,
wow.
The rest of your existence could be a letdown.
Yeah, really. It was amazing, and I don't fit in well with great crowds. Because I'd be the one just sitting in my seat and watching the game, and would probably get irritated when everybody else stands up. So I'll enjoy it from my seat. But I'll tell you what, it was just a phenomenal game from start to finish. The Knights were so good in the first period. I ended up pushing my bet because I did bet them in the first period. I knew they were going to come out flying. They played a tremendous first period, but just could not find the back of the net. They either couldn't complete the pass that they needed, or Grubauer would make another great save. And the crazy thing, and this is the beauty of sports, I guess you could say, as great as Grubauer has been in this series, it's kind of a goofy fluke goal that ends up winning. It goes off his back and into the net. It happens, and I'm sure Grubauer is going to be beside himself over that. But hey, 2-1, let's go.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the range of emotions there, and the quick change of emotions, even on the Marchessault play, which turns into like a mini break. He has a golden opportunity. When you watch the replay, he actually whiffed on it, but luckily it slid right to him. And then I forget who was the announcer, but they said Grubauer just for a split second didn't cover the post. And Marchessault's just like, all right, off his back, off the back, off the glove, and it goes in. And sometimes that's what it takes. Like you just said, yeah, because what's funny? Right before that, I had marked it down, and I was thinking to myself, because they said oh, whoever took a shot and they didn't get it done. They were like, that's the 100th shot in the series so far. And I start calculating real quick. I'm like, 4 goals in 100 shots, and then it was like within 30 seconds, Marchessault's coming down and gets this weird, innovative, creative goal.
He was 98 for 102 on saves, and then went 0 for 2. And the nice thing is that the Golden Knights can skate off the ice not only with a win, but at least with a belief that they can actually get a puck by this guy. Because it's got to get it. It had to be getting into their heads. It's like, how do we get something past him?
You start thinking. I actually believe on some of these breaks they start overthinking things.
Well, Pacioretty
on that play. Come on,
he actually put on too many moves.
Shoot, exactly.
And he's a great goal scorer. And that to me was an example of like, he's got them baffled right now. But now they can go out there and here's the other side of it though. This is a really good hockey team, this Colorado squad, and they've been badly outplayed for 5 periods. I mean, badly outplayed. They're going to come out flying on Sunday. Be ready for an all-out assault early on Sunday. This team is going to come out with fire in their eyes on Sunday, and the Knights have got to be ready for that.
Yeah, their coach Bednar post game a couple of things he said, because essentially they've been outplayed for 5 of 6 periods now. He said his team's getting outcompeted by VGK. Quote, the hardest working player we have right now is Philip Grubauer, which is a message to the rest of the team. Get your shit together.
Well, and look, the McKinnon is at worst the second best player in the league. He's been invisible since game 1. That's not going to continue. So the Golden Knights have got to be prepared for look, the Avalanche had to be prepared for the Golden Knights coming out with fire in their eyes tonight. And they kind of weren't. They got outplayed again. So it doesn't guarantee success for Colorado on Sunday, but I will tell you that the Golden Knights, and they know it. The Golden Knights are going to know it. It's not like they're going to take the ice overconfident on Sunday. They know they're going to see a different Colorado team on Sunday.
Bednar also said, when you are a couple of the top teams in the league, you're not going to go out and dominate, or you shouldn't. He said tonight they did. And the last 40 minutes, the other night, they did. It's too long now. So he knows what's going on, and he's trying to send a message to his team. It's been pretty good domination. I will say, Dave, there were some scary freaking moments very late, and then right before Colorado took the 2-1 lead, but from McKinnon, where there were a couple of times he starts skating through the Golden Knights defenders, and the stick starts going crazy, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah,
someone get in front of him.
He's scary. And you got to tip your hat to the man at the end of the game because he came up with a few phenomenal saves. He might not have been real busy all night long, but Marc-Andre, and I think he'd like to have the first goal back. But Fleury at the end of the game when it counted was absolutely immense. I don't think he's going to be sitting for any more rest games the rest of the way.
Oh, let's not. We're not going to have that debate. And it was a one-sided debate last week. Just so people know, before we came on, Dave saying kind of with the same energy, like, oh, man, what a game. And Jay Lawrence is making a comment. Looks like Dave is drinking Jack Daniels out of the bottle. He might be. I know it's your iced tea. But after a big game like that, crazy game.
I might enjoy a cocktail later. I got some baseball work to do after we do this. Yeah? And then I think I might grab a couple ice cubes out of the freezer and pour something over them. That is not Pure Life iced tea.
What do you pour?
Whatever in the mood. I've got a lot of stuff. I have a lot in my cabinet, so I'll. Well, I'm the only one here, and it's not like I drink every day, so it's piled up over the years, gifts and things like that.
I was going to say, bought or gifted? Mostly gifted.
No, it's mostly gifted, and there's ample amounts of whiskey and scotch in there. Well, kind of same family.
Yeah. Someone's asking what your go-to is. I was going to ask the opposite. What you told me on the show years ago, wasn't there something that you used to drink and then at some point you're like, I can't do this anymore like I used to. Like you just stopped, you just cut it off. Like what was your drink back in the day?
Anything. I think if I had one that I drank the most was probably Johnny Walker Black on the Rocks.
Oh, nice. Kind of quality.
Nice. It was the post Stardust show drink. I would amble over to the little bar that was next to the sports book and would usually have a couple of drinks, and then I would go home.
Nice.
But and that was at that time. Well, it's changed a little bit. At that time, Johnny Walker Black was pretty high end. Now it's now you've got a lot fancier scotches out there, but I still like Johnny Walker Black.
Nice. Let's see. Chasen says Knights are finally smelling the blood. They want it, and now we know how to get it. All right.
Well,
I wouldn't put the cart before the horse. They're still down 2-1, but they played 5 good periods, and like Dave said a couple minutes ago, maybe they've gotten off the schneid and they feel a little more confident here to actually lift the puck a little bit and get slightly better quality shots when they get the high danger chances.
But they are, make no mistake, from a betting standpoint, they're still the underdog in the series.
The number just came out. They're still plus 330 for the series. So
not going to be easy.
No.
But at least they got a shot. I mean, if they go down 3-0, goodbye. See you later. Done. But now it's anybody's series. I think the odds are. I think the price is right because Colorado still has the home ice advantage. But let me put it this way: I wouldn't lay that money now because they're one game away from this being a coin flip.
Before the game, you could get the series for the Knights at anywhere from, I got it at plus 500. We talked to Kevin Klein, who's down at Samstown. They had it at plus 560. So, if you wanted to roll the dice tonight before the game, you could get a real good price. So we'll see what happens. Well,
at least, I mean, the one great thing is, when it was 2-1 tonight, I'm thinking, yeah, boy, Sunday's going to be, might not, it'll be fun, but kind of this is our last game at home, that type of thing. Now it got a whole different meaning. And let's hope it's not the last home game of the season, because if they don't get it done on Sunday, chances are they're not going to get it done next Tuesday, and that'll be the end of that. So it's still another must win on Sunday.
The number I gave Pro Martini was actually Stardust. Check that. I'm reading Stardust.
Stardust, yes.
Here. Sorry, Westgate.
Good luck betting at the Stardust.
Superbook. Oops. And I'm barely in. I'm drinking my fancy schmancy pineapple White Claw. It's a number from the Superbook. So and game I think was basically I don't know what everyone got the game at. I saw it this morning at minus 105 slight dog.
Right around pick 'em.
For the Knights. I got it at 120. I bet way too late. So I bet the Knights at 120. So I got off the schneid. I finally want to freaking bet.
There you go.
Yes. Westgate has VGK minus 110, Colorado even. For
I think it'll stay in that range. You might see some Golden Knights money because obviously there is some local support for the team, and I think the bettors, the Golden Knights bettors, are going to feel better about going to the window in Game 4 than perhaps they did even tonight. So I think that line could go up a little bit, but it won't move much. I think minus 120 is probably the ceiling.
Mark, what do you mean? You said Sunday will be nuts. The atmosphere or the line? You think there's going to be a ton of money on the Knights, or you think the 17,504 plus will be even crazier on Sunday? Because it was pretty nuts tonight from everybody.
How great was that?
People tweeting out videos inside. It was going pretty crazy.
I obviously I wasn't there, but that was the best thing about tonight. Well, right there with the quality of the game was seeing 0 empty seats, and the Knights were absolutely fueled by their fans. This is a great home ice, and the Fortress it's great to see it happen again.
Can we talk about unsung hero? And I'm sure some people in the room are going to know where I'm going with this, with Holden, because he's the one who freaking blasted it, towards Grubauer, where you got the slight redirect from Patches. He's been a pretty big part of the series.
Yes. They're getting contributions from everybody. Fourth line was terrific. Carrier. I mean, Carrier's been outstanding. He's actually had one heck of a season. He gets no publicity at all. And he's had a really good year for this team and has come up big in the playoffs. He's not the most gifted goal scorer of all time, but I'm telling you what, he makes things happen at both ends of the ice. Doesn't take bad penalties as a rule. He's turned into a very valuable very valuable guy in this team.
By the way, how about Belmar getting back at the Knights just a little bit?
He's tough.
Yeah.
Speaking of fourth liners, I guess you don't mind having that guy like that on your fourth line, huh? He's a pretty good player.
Yeah. It was funny when they were struggling. I saw a tweet from a guy who follows us, Vegas J12, Jay Littlefield, and he said, "This Golden Knights team is the most frustrating team to watch in sports history. Never ready to shoot the puck when they get a good pass. Never shoot the puck at point blank range. Can't score on a power play. I can't take much more." That's the way it felt.
That's the one area you'd like to see some improvement in. It's just not a great power play, but it hasn't been all year. I can't give you the reasons why. They've got capable guys out there. It just hasn't really clicked on a regular basis all season. But, nobody's perfect. And that seems to be one thing they're not absolutely great at, but they're awfully good at everything else.
Bill says, let's give a little love to Riley Smith, set up to Marshy.
That line's been tremendous. There's not a line in hockey that's more used to playing with one another than those guys. They've been together for 4 years. And, the chemistry on that line is as good as it gets. And it's a heck of a line. Marchessault always seems to be in the midst when something really good happens for the Golden Knights too. He's a clutch guy.
He's the last couple of games. He's looked fast and fresh when the game maybe guys are getting a little tired legs. He's a small guy, but I thought he was really active, really dangerous.
I think he's also he doesn't have the C on his jersey, but I don't think there's much question. He's one of the real leaders on this team. And I guess Fleury's the first guy with a statue, but might want to get something from Marchessault down the line because he's been here 4 years now, and I would expect he's sticking around for more. And he's extremely popular player. I don't know him personally, but a couple of people I know who do say just an absolutely great guy, and on and off the ice, just a terrific guy.
Yeah, fiery dude, a guy you follow.
Yep.
Not big in stature, but I think he's willing to tear into people's asses when things aren't going the way they're supposed to be going.
I think that's a common thread in this team, though, because you look at these guys. Mark Stone, great leadership. Pietrangelo, great leadership. He was the captain of the Stanley Cup winning St. Louis Blues. It's up and down the team. That is something where you got to point to the front office, McPhee and company. They've gotten the right type of guys here from day one. It's not just the skill level. It's also that it factor that seems to be something that runs through the roster. They've got the right type of players who are team first guys. There's almost no, I can't even think of any guys who've had like that me first attitude on this team. And that really does point to the front office. They've done a great job from the opening gun.
Some might argue that when he does go a little off, that Reeves could be a me guy. Where are you now on Ryan Reeves after that penalty? As Truth from Duluth says here, and a couple other commenters, he's back on Sunday. What do you do with him? Because got to tell you, I get what he was doing. I get what he was doing with Graves, but if you're ripping someone's hair out, not good. And we also had the play. What was it? The game before where he's smashing. The series before where he's smashing someone's face. What was it Suter smashing his face into the freaking goalpost? I mean, that is the one thing with him. Like, dude, there's walking the line, and then when you cross the line, you can freaking hurt the team.
Well, I think Ryan knows that, and I would hope that he would not do anything like that on Sunday. Pick your poison. If he plays, I guess Kolesar goes back in street clothes. And Kolesar, he's a guy I think he's got a chance to be a real good player, but he's got a lot of work to do on his offense. His stick skills around the net are just brutal. They're just awful.
He had one tonight where he bought. He bought it.
He could have 20 goals this year, and instead he's barely got any. He's just awful around the net. But he's young, and that's a skill that he can improve. He's got the skating ability. There's no question about that. He's got the toughness. I mean, that's a guy that his ceiling is a lot higher than his present play. I don't think I'd mess with the lineup. I think I want to go with what's been out there for the last 2 games because they've played. I mean, you don't screw around when it's going right. And the last 2 games, this team has been sensational. So I'm not making any lineup changes unless somebody's hurt.
Anyone else in the chat room? What do you think they should do with them? Because we were at a couple people. I saw at least a couple of tweets saying don't bother, don't even play them. A Norm in Vegas said, anyone think Reeves was missed tonight? Not me.
Well, he hasn't been missed the last 2 games based on the way they've played.
Right.
And you know that's how it goes sometimes. So no, I would be surprised if, to be honest, I'd be a little surprised if he's out there unless there's somebody who can't go because of an injury and he slots back in. But I don't see DeBoer making any changes after what's taken place in these last 2 games. I mean, they are really playing well, and they're playing at this level against the best team in the league,
Yep.
at least the best power rated team in the league.
Dominating.
And Colorado, you look at their numbers throughout the season, even in the losses they've generally outplayed the opposition. They maybe had 10 games all year where they weren't the team in control territorially. And for them to get lambasted twice in succession in terms of zone time, that's pretty impressive. It tells you how good the Knights are. And that being the case, I just don't, I'd be, let's put it this way. He did one little experiment in this series. It didn't work out very well.
No.
I don't think he's going to mess with success again. And that's not to say game one might have been the same thing if Fleury was in goal, but I this is just my opinion. You can agree or disagree. I thought the team played like they knew they were going to lose. And some of that, to me, it's not Leonard's fault, but I've said this, I don't know, 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
They're a better team with Fleury. They're more confident. They play better hockey when Fleury's in goal. I've watched every game they've played this year, and it's not a knock on Leonard. He's a good goaltender. He's a number 1 goalie. He's a starting goalie for most teams in the league. But on this team, he's the backup in important games. And again, I think it's still a 2-1 series in all likelihood. But I disagreed with Fleury sitting in game 1, and that opinion, let's just say I didn't get proven wrong.
Dave, how does that change so much from one year to the other? I mean, Leonard was the man. He played better.
He was better last year.
How does that change? How does it completely flip in 1 year, 1 season?
It's just once somebody gets rolling, especially at that position, you just have supreme confidence. I mean, this is from when I was around a pro hockey team as a kid, and it was an American Hockey League team, but this is before expansion. So these were really good teams. Okay. I mean, there were only 6 NHL teams. So the American Hockey League was loaded with top flight players. And on the Reds, the team in my town, Marcel Paillet was the number 1 goalie and Russ Brooks was the backup. And Brooks was a good goaltender. He eventually made the NHL and played with the Bruins. But Marcel was the guy. And they were a better team. They just were a better team. They played with more confidence at both ends of the ice when Paillet was in the goal. And I learned that early on. And it's always been the same. And that's why I am an ardent believer come playoff time, unless your starting goalie isn't playing well and you need a jolt, or if the team isn't playing well and you need a jolt, you go with the horse that got you there. Last year was Leonard. I mean, Leonard was the guy who needed to be in goal in the playoffs last year because Fleury had a rough year. I mean, his dad passed away. He was not the same after that. He just mentally wasn't there. But this year it's been MAF. Flower's been amazing. I think he's going to win the Vezina. I know he's a finalist, and I really do think he's going to win it, and I think he deserves it. And he's got to be the guy. Now, it's not always the case. Look, I don't think there's anything wrong with the way the Hurricanes goaltenders played in the playoffs, but they needed to make a change in Game 3 against Tampa to just give the team a jolt after losing 2 home games. So they went to Mrazek, and it worked out. They won the game in overtime. I would expect Mrazek's going to be out there again tomorrow for Carolina in Game 4. That's where a change is good, but don't make a change if it's working. And we've Marc-Andre Fleury is playing the rest of the games for the Golden Knights. As long as the playoffs go on, he's in goal.
Yep. Just like Dave said, Fleury had a rough year last year, a lot to deal with. And, I don't know what the Leonard injury is. I think Brady was asking earlier, is it a concussion? I don't know. Maybe you guys have heard. I haven't heard.
I don't know. I know he wasn't. I was surprised he wasn't on the bench in game 2, so I'm assuming there might have been some physical issue. I don't know, though. I have no information on that.
It's the day-to-day ways of the Golden Knights. I don't want this to be too loud, but one of our regulars on Cofield and Company, Mark McMillan, Mighty Mac, who of course played with the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Saints and the Niners, he was at the game. Listen to there's not much to it. It's just frenzied screaming. Good seats.
Yeah.
I mean, that captures the atmosphere pretty good. Holy shit.
How about that, huh?
Oh, my God. That's awesome.
By the way, now I've only met Mark a couple of times.
Yeah.
Generally, when the Las Vegas Sportsline was ending and he was coming into the studio and I was leaving. But I've seen pictures of his what's the word I'm looking for? His skills on the grill.
Oh, yeah. Dude, he's good.
I want to sample some of that stuff.
I know. He's good.
He looks like he really knows what he's doing.
He makes
that
some
food looks good.
Some fat ass steaks. Like I do not like making chicken. I don't know why. I just can't. I don't always get it right. I always got to worry about cooking it through. Hit the freaking chicken he makes is awesome. Yeah, he's got all these bourbon sauces he's doing. He's great breakfast.
The pictures he sends, and I know this sound kind of weird, but you can almost smell how good it is from the pictures. You just look at it, it's like, wow, that looks good.
That's why it's funny. We will get into arguments, as we often do on the show, as you and I did. And sometimes it's over silly shit. But one thing Adam drives me nuts on, when we talk food, and he gets really annoyed at some of the guys like Mark, but especially like Ryan McKinnell, Adam gets annoyed about presentation. And I try to explain to him, like, it is part of the meal.
Oh, hell yeah.
Sorry, if you don't buy, like, Dave, you go to nice places, if you go to high-end places and you're paying a good chunk of change, and it looks like, just because it might taste good, but it looks like slop on the plate, it is part of the deal.
Absolutely. You're absolutely paying for presentation. Now, it doesn't matter to me sometimes. For instance, when I go to Del Mar next month, there's I think it's called the Fish Market. It's right around the corner from the racetrack. And I love the place. It ain't fancy, okay? There's not a lot of ambiance. It's a fish market, but the food's really good. So I don't care about the presentation there. But there's some restaurants that are higher end, and the presentation is important. It's part of the overall experience.
Absolutely. Someone was asking about the crowd. Mark was answering 17,504. Rick on the food. Culinary schools, of course, have courses in presentation, and just about any of the reality cooking shows you watch. Big part of it, if you're into Top Chef, I'm catching up on Top Chef, but that is part of it. The food can't look like ass on the plate.
Same thing with bartenders.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the drink's the drink. If the ingredients are all the same, it's going to taste the same. But high-end bartenders, they're giving you a show, and the drink looks a little better when it comes to it. It's like, wow, that really looks tasty. It's part of the show. You're paying for it. It's not the same as if I'm tending bar. No. Here's your beer. Okay, that's it. You're not getting anything else. That's why I would not be at a high-end bar. Let's put it that way.
All right, Cam. We'll see you. Have a good weekend, buddy.
You pay more for presentation. Look, my car's got stuff in it that I'm never going to use. And the dashboard lights up in different colors.
Right.
which I didn't even know it did when I got the car. That's something that's like, what the hell? What is going on here? Does it make the car drive any better? No, but I guess it's part of the package that I paid for. I mean, I paid. Any car is going to get me down the street the same, okay? But I paid more because I wanted more ambience in my car and a better look. So it's that way with food, and it's that way with drinks. And yeah, I'm going to be more interested in food that I think looks great, in addition to, and it's probably going to taste great too. If it looks good, it's going to taste good. That's kind of what my attitude is.
I was talking about you on the air today about your aversion sometimes to vegetables, but especially I think you went nuts on broccoli a couple weeks ago, and I was bringing
like
up
broccoli at all.
I know you don't. I brought it up. I was like, if you put broccoli on a plate with some Dover sole, even Dave might take the plate and throw it right in your face. Or
no, I'll knock it off the plate though.
He'll just flip off just knock the broccoli on the floor.
Don't put that parsley. I'm all right with parsley because I can just pick it up and move it, but I don't want the broccoli messing with anything else. You know, some of that. If there's a broccoli, one of those little green things that gets on the main dish, it's like you've ruined my dinner.
All right.
I don't like broccoli. Listen, I drink my V8 and I take a vitamin, so I get my fill of vegetables. And I'm in good health, so, you know.
Jay Lawrence says, yeah, it's worked so far. The father-in-law is cooking for the game on Sunday, lobster, crab, homemade noodles, and so on. Okay. All right.
Wow. That sounds pretty good.
I literally, every weekend, I can barely remember what I'm doing because I have to ask the SO because she makes some plans, and then I cannot remember 5 minutes after she tells me. So I was like, usually tomorrow morning when I get up, I'd be like, all right, what are we doing today, tomorrow? Because I know what I'm doing during the day, but when she gets home from work, I'm like, what did I say we're doing? What did I agree to? So I know there's some kind of commitment.
But I'm assuming there's
it might change now that the Knights we feel like are back in the series, so she'll be.
I was just going to say I'm going to take a chance and say that if there are any plans for Sunday at game time, they might get scrapped.
Maybe we didn't do the pod the other night on Wednesday because my internet was freaking screwing up, and I was having trouble getting the game at home, and I was like, okay, I don't even know if the pod's going to work. But we went out to a bar, and it was a good atmosphere. The bar we went to usually host. They'll have the entire place set up to watch, so people can watch the game. But the crowds have been so small because of COVID up until the last couple of weeks that they didn't clear out an area. They had a couple of billiards tables still out there. So I don't know why I'm telling you this, but whatever. They weren't prepped for a big crowd, but they had a nice crowd, and everyone there was into it. So I don't know. I like watching the energy of watching the games at the bars when people are into it is pretty cool.
This city being back to normal is just the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've lived here so long, I think I've taken it for granted.
Yeah.
Which is natural, and I'm not taking it for granted right now. I might again 2 years down the road. It might be okay. Big deal. But right now, it's like when I was down at the Circa last week, I was like, "This is pretty cool."
Yep.
Because I hadn't, I'd forgotten. I'd forgotten how much fun it is to see all these people around milling back and forth, and the bar was packed, and there was Derek Stevens holding court, and it was like, this is good. Let's not let this go away anytime soon again. By the way, that place really is amazing.
Especially I love the Nugget. I think the Downtown Grand is excellent. I think the Plaza remake is pretty cool. There's not enough people down there on a consistent basis, but the Circa, compared to the rest of it, even now when you drive, and I drive by downtown all the time, when you drive by it, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That place is gigantic compared to everything else around.
I had not had, that was my first time down there. Because I just didn't get, I don't drive much at night, and there wasn't any particular reason for me to go down there during the day, and obviously there was this issue with the virus. The last time I can remember having a wow like that was actually when the Mirage first opened. The first time I went in the Mirage, because there had been nothing like the Mirage in this city. It completely blew away every hotel in terms of just what they had there.
Right.
And it was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm walking through a hotel and it feels like I'm in a tropical rainforest.
Yep.
It was just amazing. And then all the new hotels. One was was better than the next, but there had been nothing for a long, long time where I got there and it was like, jeez. And then I got to the Circa and it's like, what Derek put together there is it's unbelievable. It's incredible. If you haven't been, if you're from out of town, and you got to put that on your absolutely have to do list. You'll be blown away.
You know what's funny is Judge Dan, who does our legal podcast on Thursdays, he came down to Sam's Town today and joined us because he's in town for games 3 and 4. I might find a way to meet up with him a little later on. I don't know if we talked about it on the air, but he was hanging out downtown last night. I'm like, did you go to Circa? He's like, he didn't even know about it. I'm like, dude, how could you not see it? But maybe he got dropped off in the middle of downtown. He wasn't paying attention on the Lyft ride down there, Uber ride down there. But I'm like, bro, you got to go check it out. I will say on the Mirage, I think the Mirage of I'm not saying it's like the best of all the old places, but of a lot of the old places, I think it's actually held up pretty well. Like when you walk in, it's still very cool. It's still a very nice casino floor. And so I don't know if I'm being a cheeseball here, but when you look around now, some places have not aged well. I think the Mirage has actually done pretty well.
Yeah. And look, and Caesars has done a great job in, it got old and they made it not so old anymore. Because Caesars was open before I got here. That was the first place that the old timers would tell me it's like that's the one that really changed the city.
Right.
Because it was spectacular. It was absolutely spectacular. There was nothing even close to Caesars when it first opened. The other hotels were just hotels. They had great entertainment and gambling.
Yeah.
But Caesars was way ahead of its time.
Yeah. Let's see. Kind of all over the place here. But Jay Lawrence said, I went to a bar for the first time since the beginning of last year. Okay, that is weird. Everyone had a different example. Dave, you were holed up a lot. I have a lot of friends who were holed up. We didn't do a lot of bar hopping, but we definitely hit some bars during the pandemic. Jay Lawrence, where'd you go? Well, you know what? The joke about Circus Circus, I hope Mr. Ruffin, as I'll call him, since we do some business with him down at the sports bar down there, the Golden Circle at the TI. I hope they put a little bit of money into it, and they probably should. I'm not trying to be ridiculous here, but like they got it on the cheap, right? And I would assume with all the other cool stuff up around it, like Resorts World right down the road, the convention center right there, maybe whatever it's going to be called, the Drew eventually opens up in the next 10 years. So I think they'll put a little money into it. It needs it.
It does need it. But in fairness, that end of the Strip hasn't exactly been boomtown over the last several years. That's about to change.
Yeah.
So when your when the expensive neighbors move in, you want to make your house look good too. So I think they'll do what they can do to kind of make it a lot nicer than it's been, and hopefully there'll be good reason to go down there once again and experience their outstanding steakhouse.
Yep, there will be.
That's a good joint. I got to tell you something. That's one of the old tried and true steakhouses in town, and it's good.
Yeah, Mayor, we talked about the purchase of the Palms and the process. I think they're like 6-8 months away from getting approved. Who else? Dave, question here from Franco. Franco, how does the Flamingo fit in with the history?
Well, I think it was the first one, right? It's kind of in a tough spot because there's not a lot they can do,
right?
Because of where it's situated. So, I mean, I don't. As far as the historically, the Flamingo's a big part of the history of the city, as big as it gets, because that's where it pretty much all began, and that'll never change. But it's kind of a small hotel by today's. So same with the Trop. They once upon a time they were really big hotels. They're not anymore. The MGM Grand got built and it kind of dwarfed everything in that on that corner, and the Trop they're hanging in there, and I hope they continue. I hope they continue to hang in there because they're a landmark, not the landmark, but they are a landmark, and I would hope those places can survive.
I will say
there's limitations on what they can do.
Again, to be a cheese ball, I actually do like the feel of some of the older casinos. I know it sounds weird, but I kind of like the gaudiness of the Flamingo. I actually don't mind the low ceilings. I actually think you stay at the Flamingo. The best thing at the Flamingo to me is actually the pool and the grounds out back. They actually have a pretty good pool. So if you like to go hang out, I will tell you the last time I was there at the pool, my God, between the sun and we got like pictures of stuff. I was annihilated. My girlfriend has a picture of me. I just remember coming in and I've never ever used these things before, but you ever see the little oxygen bars where you got
sure.
She took a picture of me. I was on there and I was just like, I was so fucked up. I'm like, this is not doing anything for me. This is not saving me from alcohol poisoning.
I've never done an oxygen bar.
Well, in my state at that point, nothing was going to happen. I think I got done with it after being slumped over, and I went and took a nap for like 6 hours and was ready to go like 11 o'clock at night.
I've never understood I obviously am missing something, but I've never understood the concept of paying for oxygen. There must be something to it that I'm missing. And again, I haven't experienced it.
Riviera is another place I liked. I mean, it got old, but I liked Riviera.
It got really old.
Yeah, I liked it. There
were some of the hotels that, some got old, and then there's some that got really old. And unfortunately, I think the Riv kind of fell into that category.
I'll tell you the other thing, and it's still going on at Caesars, and I'm not saying I don't want to be an ageist, and the cocktail waitresses can work until whenever they want, but the Riviera, because I worked there a little bit. I was working in a sports book. I think it was Leroy's at the time, so I got to do the Riv probably a half dozen times, and I was like, whoa, okay. I mean, we're going to work out the string here because you can still make money, but the Riv was getting old. But I actually liked that area. It's not really a corner, but I kind of like the bustle of the Riviera across to the Stardust, and then
back then it was great.
I really, because it was like bright as hell. Like that was like vintage Vegas, back into the early 2000s.
Prior to that, Jack Lysott was the odds maker at the Riv, and he's really sharp. Okay, I think he's offshore now. I'm not sure, but it was like, let's put the numbers up. Okay, let's run across the street and see what Jack hangs, because if he was a half point different, go with Jack. He was a great odds, but sharp as it gets. There were a few guys in this town, and I always thought Gene Bidet at Little Caesars was maybe the best. They would give you indicators on what they liked in a game, and if you were smart, you followed what they were doing. Gene Bidet actually used to. He was trying to generate action on Friday night. Yeah. He would put up the little blackboard. He had a little blackboard right at the front of the of the casino, and he would write 3 games down that he liked. So people would be there waiting. Brown +6, Northwestern +13, whatever. And it's like, you're probably going to get 2 out of 3 with those, because Gene knows what he's doing. Yeah, he was good.
That's awesome. Razorback Scoop says the Frontier got really old.
Oh yeah.
But you like the Frontier, right?
I love the Frontier. That was the first.
You did well with the cocktail waitresses there, I thought, right? Or at least one of them.
Yeah. And it was where I got introduced to Las Vegas radio, because that's where Lee Pete was doing his show when I first started making my appearances. So I love the Frontier. Yeah. And their food, by the way, very underrated. Their restaurants were good. That was a regular spot for the boxing crowd, the boxing media crowd.
Yeah,
we would hit the Frontier generally at least once a week. Of course, we were getting comped, which a bunch of cheap asses like we, because boxing media and media in general are notorious cheapskates. We like comps. We like them a lot. Why do you think we go to the press conferences? It's not for the quotes. It's for the food. But Frontier was very generous as far as that goes, and the food was never disappointing. I love that place.
Did Lee Pete, because someone, Bill McNeil mentioned the old Showboat. Did Lee do a show out at the Showboat too?
Yeah, I think we did some. I don't. There were so many hotels we did them from. I've forgotten them.
Yeah.
I don't.
So you know what? I've never asked.
I don't know that we did. I don't think we did. I can't remember. I don't recall
Lee-
doing a regular show at the Showboat.
Lee was at this. The show was on KDON, right?
Right.
And how many shows a week did Lee do?
5.
He
Well,
did 5?
No, he did. No, he did 6 because he did the weeknights, Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And then Sunday nights with Jim Brown
Right.
at the Stardust.
And was he employed by KDON? Like, how did he make his money, or did he deal with all?
He
deal
was,
with all these books and scoop up all the money?
Yeah, they yeah.
He was making a killing then, probably doing well.
Lee did very well. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Well, when you're the one guy, you're one guy in town. You're on a 50,000 watt station, and then you got you're on the crew, and freaking Jim Brown's doing a show. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I think Jim Brown's a little bigger than I was.
Wow.
But
for the Vegas people, you were a gigantic deal. If you're picking winners, that's a big deal. I'm not saying you're bigger than Jim Brown. I get it. You're being humble here, but
I'm not being humble. I'm being realistic. Jim Brown. Jim Brown was in the Dirty Dozen.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't even in the Dirty Trio. So no, that's how cool is that? You're doing a sports show with Jim Brown, and he, by the way, he was great with the crowds.
Yeah.
I don't know where he got this reputation. Sullen guy. He was terrific.
Yeah, I've only been around him a few times, and he was a little bit older. And I've always said he's one of maybe like 4 people in my entire time in the media where I was like, oh shit, like there was an aura about him where he was like pushing 70 years old when I was around him, and I'm like, that guy could fuck me up right now. Like, that's Jim Brown. Holy shit.
Turned out to be a pretty good actor too.
He was.
And obviously one of the greatest athletes who ever lived. I mean, he wasn't just football. He was also an incredible lacrosse player. I think he probably could have been great at anything he did athletically. He's just amazing. When I see these lists of greatest football players ever, who's the greatest running back ever? And they're listing guys from like 2000 on. It's like, you do know that with guys like Barry Sanders and Gale Sayers and maybe the best of them all, Jim Brown before that, it's like the world didn't not exist before you were born.
Right. Yeah,
Jim Brown might very well have been the best. I mean, he's right there with Bo Jackson in terms of best athletes
he's a freak
of all time. Yeah,
especially at his size in that era.
Oh, yeah,
gigantic.
And he could have played a lot longer than he did, but he had other fish to fry, and obviously acting was one of them, and he did rather well in that field. I mean, he made some really good movies. I think The Dirty Dozen was probably the best of them, but he had a lot of good roles.
What about this one, 100 Guns?
Yeah, that was Raquel Welch and Jim Brown, and I can't remember who the Stuart Whitman. I can't remember who the other male lead was, but he was good. Let's put it this way: he was he had actual acting skills. Joe Namath.
Oh boy,
and not one of the great actors of all time.
Oh boy.
But he had charisma, that's for sure. Joe Namath's best acting actually has come later in life in the commercials he does for the for whatever the health. Yeah, it's like, hey, he's pretty good in those. I mean, he's obviously just reading off a cue card, but it's like he's better now than he was then. He was not good in the movies.
I was going to say, I think his best acting might have been the time that he threatened to retire, was crying about his club being taken away. They were threatening him with his club in the early 70s.
I don't think he was acting either.
The sad thing is he wasn't. He was really upset. And
I know.
And, I think he might have walked for a couple of days, and he's like, fuck. All right.
Yeah.
I want to play football.
That back then the players didn't quite have the same power they do now. I mean,
what's funny is and maybe I've missed it. Someone should do a book on Namath and some other players in the late 60s, early 70s, because there was stuff going on.
Oh, sure there was.
Roselle may have a bad reputation, maybe a little too meddling here and there, but I think he also knew that, now it's a lot harder for, organized crime and especially illegal gambling to get at players. Back then, it was not.
Players weren't making that much money.
Yep.
And everything was underground. I mean, there basically was no legal sports wagering. We had it out here, I guess, but wasn't that big. And yeah, I mean, there were no checkpoints. Now you try and pull something off now, you're probably going to get caught. Okay. And at the pro level, it's almost impossible. And with more and more legalized sports wagering, it's just in a team sport, it's just not going to happen. I won't rule it out in individual sports. Tennis, I think, still remains sketchy at times. Not at the highest levels, but in these other tournaments that are taking place, particularly in Europe, there would be some reluctance here to get involved in wagering on those events.
Yeah. So, Dave, before we get out of here, I wanted to ask you a couple of baseball topics. This is not really a topic, but did I maybe you didn't get to check the box scores, and maybe I can get this confirmed in the room. I swear that I saw in the Twins game, they got destroyed, right, tonight?
Yeah, I had the over in that game. In fact, it was the free play I posted on Twitter today and at Wager Talk, and they got 9 in the first, which is nice when you're playing an over.
Oh, my God. Who was pitching for the Twins? Oh, Shoemaker.
Who?
That's fantasy hell.
Yeah, he gave up 9 runs in 1/3 of an inning. That's not good for your team ERA. The Twins might have to make a decision on him at this point.
Am I a dick, or am I misreading that? Did Baldelli do it again? Did he throw the fucking giant fat catcher again?
Oh, I haven't looked.
I think he did. It's the box score I have. It says he pitched not a clean inning. He pitched 1 inning and with a walk.
Okay.
What are we doing?
Well, I guess
after all the bullshit with La Russa and Mercedes.
Well, I guess he felt confident that nobody was going to swing at a 3-0 pitch this time.
I don't know. They should have freaking swung on everything to send the message like it ain't just Yermin Mercedes who thinks this is stupid with you talking about integrity and then putting a position player on the mound throwing 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, unless a guy is actually a pitcher and a like Ohtani. Okay, right. Ohtani. Other than that,
Brendan McKay coming up,
If you're going to outlaw the shift, then outlaw this garbage at the end of games. Okay, you've got professional pitchers. You got to use them. That's all. Okay, I don't care if you have to go through the whole staff. It's embarrassing. Okay, it's not part of the game, and it was amusing the first couple of times it happened, and now it's like, okay, just end the game then. That's it. Just have the mercy rule. We're too far behind. We give up, because that's what you're doing.
Yep.
You are in essence giving up. We give up. Here's the fat catcher. He's going to pitch an inning. We give up. Sure. Well, why bother to play then?
Yeah. It's nice to the fans too. I pay to go out, and I'm watching this stupidity.
I don't think the fans mind at that point because the game's over. They're either staying there to have drinks or whatever because they're mostly gone. I mean, if the score is 13-1, they're out of there. No, I just think it. I'm not going to say integrity of the game because it's nothing underhanded going on, but I mean, if you're really going to worry about where we have to outlaw 3 players on one side of the infield, which is just strategy. I don't like the strategy. I mean, I hate it when it works against me, but it's strategy. This isn't. If you're going to outlaw that, then outlaw this, because this isn't even strategy. It's we're saving an arm. Okay.
Apparently, no unwritten rule on this one, but maybe there needs to be.
No, and that's why I was completely against what La Russa said about sportsmanship. The other team is insulting the game, and the guy who's up at the plate, his job, his paycheck depends on him getting hits. If he has an opportunity to hit a 48-mile-an-hour, whatever it is, out of the ballpark, by all means, take advantage of it.
Yep.
If the pitcher had just thrown him ball 4, then it wouldn't have happened. He threw a pitch down the middle of the plate. What's he supposed to do? Not swing? La Russa was just I thought he was completely out of line there. That had nothing to do with his age or anything like that, because there's some younger managers who I assume felt the same way. But I think that's bullshit, okay? You throw the ball down the middle of the plate and the hitter's in the box, he has every right, in fact, a responsibility to try and hit the ball as far as he can.
Hey, Ricky, you're leaving? You've been in here like 4 of the 5 nights. You didn't mention one thing about Bryce Hamilton. You were crushing him when he was going to transfer. Now he's back. So maybe we'll do it next week. Maybe Ricky's gone. I don't know.
How about that?
I think it's pretty goddamn cool for UNLV.
Yeah, it sure is.
It was one of the things they were lacking. Today they got a backup big man, a 7-footer, and now they still have one spot open. They have a chance to be pretty freaking good.
I think they do.
The Bryce story is amazing because Bryce basically is still going to test the NBA. He's going to come back to UNLV, and he's going to look around, and he's like, all right, a whole new team. It's like I transferred, except that I get to stay in the same spot with some of the coaches I know.
And I think maybe he looked at it and says, hey, wait a minute, this is starting to look like a pretty exciting team. I mean, I got to tell you, it's a different vibe. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go out there and be great, but this is the best vibe. Not that TJ was a bad hire or anything like that. I mean, it was like, oh, this guy's done pretty well over in the small conference. Maybe he'll do okay. But this has a different vibe. This feels like it might not happen in 1 year, but it feels like UNLV is going to at least be relevant in the Mountain West Conference again. That's step one. And then step two is getting to San Diego State level. I think that's as good as it's going to get. But that would be pretty good, wouldn't it? If the Rebels can get to San Diego State level on an annual basis, I think most of us would be really thrilled with that.
The top 25 program and the second best program in the West, maybe not, now with UCLA on the rise, but Gonzaga and UCLA, and then consistently San Diego State's right there with them.
And I think that's a realistic objective, as opposed to we should be in the Sweet 16 every year.
Right.
But that's realistic. And by the way, we can use some optimism. The over and under on the football team.
Ooh.
Win total 1.5.
Yeah, not good. Not good. I don't think
that's not going to inspire a lot of sales. I wouldn't think.
Well, that's a very interesting topic, and we'll do that when it comes closer to the football season because the Raiders parking prices came out, and the UNLV is in a real tricky position because they're going to want to make some money off of parking, but my God, don't do what the Raiders are doing, which is somewhere between $40 and $100, and the average parking price is $75. I have no idea what sort of freedom UNLV has with the parking, but the prices better not be that high because the last thing you want to do is dissuade people from coming out to see that stadium by having some crazy parking prices in a season like you just said, where the over/under wins is 1.5.
And I don't know the answer to this, but does Uber, and Lyft, I assume are going to do some pretty good business for Raider games. Hopefully, they don't jack up the prices and rip off the fans.
They will. That's why they're back.
There's going to be traffic.
There's going to be a price surge, so that they will.
But don't make it a complete ripoff.
Right.
A little bit of a boost. Obviously, you can't charge the same as a normal trip because there's going to be a ton of traffic.
Yep.
And and drivers should get more. But I mean, that's a lot of money to park a car. That's Fenway Park level. There's no parking around Fenway Park, and the people who live in the area charge. This is going back when I lived back there.
Right.
They charge like $100 for you to park in their driveway.
Yeah. I talked about the parking a lot today and yesterday, but last night I actually about 12:45, 1 o'clock in the morning, I drove down to the stadium because the Raiders released the map, and I wanted to see where all these little lots were and get an idea of like the lots that are furthest away that are $40, and it's going to work out. The fascinating thing, and I said this on the air today, is there are a ton of small warehouses and small businesses, and there's actually a lot of parking in those lots. So I don't know how the Raiders are going to stop all those people who own those buildings from charging like $30 to park.
They can't stop them, it's free enterprise. And that's what I would recommend is start looking around now for small business owners who they won't gouge you. And you'll pay $30 or $40, maybe even $50, but you'll be reasonably close to the stadium. And who knows? An enterprising entrepreneur might set it up where they charge $50 to park and then give you like a free shuttle. Why not?
I mean, you could. I mean, the main area it's basically between Valley View and Polaris. Those are the north-south roads, and then the east-west are Russell and Hacienda. There's plenty of parking down there. The Raiders have acquired multiple pieces of property, so It'll be fine. And
But I'm saying it's like kind of like at Del Mar, for instance.
Yeah.
There are little. I mean, you can park at the track if you want, but you're better off parking someplace else because all these places have shuttles that'll take you right to the gate.
Yep.
And they're free. They'll give you you're paying to park or you're paying to stay at the hotel or whatever, but they'll just take you there. I mean, you give the driver a tip, but it's a good setup. And I would think let me put it this way. If I had a property down there, that's exactly what I'd be doing. Okay. I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars to park here. It's going to be less than the Raiders are charging. And I'll invest in a little vehicle to get 10 people right to the gate.
Right.
And they'll tip the driver. So everybody's going to make money in the process. And why not? That's free enterprise. That's the beauty of free enterprise.
And I'm telling you, there are so many. When I looked around, I was like, shit, man, there's like another 10,000 spots down here with people who just own these warehouses and small businesses. So it'll be.
Somebody Brady put up, Excalibur. Why wouldn't they do that?
They're not going to. So here's the deal.
I don't know why they wouldn't do it.
Well, but here's the deal. The Raiders own 13,000 spots around the stadium. They have control of 13,000 spots. They said there's another 22,000, including, all the strip properties. I don't see that Excalibur, that big lot that they built behind the Excalibur, charging just 25. I think they're going to charge more. And I know there's no way Mandalay, there's no way anyone's parking at Mandalay for less than like 150. And the same thing that Luxor garage is going to be 75 or 100 as well.
Probably so.
Yeah.
But I tell you, I might look at that if I'm Excalibur and say, let's charge them $40 and we'll shuttle them over. It's free money. And the goodwill, those people are liable to go into the Excalibur after the game and say, hey, let's have fun here.
The goodwill, they're bringing back paid parking. They're already doing it.
Yeah, I know.
The goodwill.
Well, but I'm saying as far as the Raiders thing goes.
That'd be nice.
Because that's a lot of money. $75, $100 to park, that's a lot.
It's ridiculous.
Especially when you're already paying. Well, I don't have to worry about it because I'm not going.
Yeah.
The nice thing is that I'm not in the media anymore. I can say this stuff. Raiders don't like it. I don't care. What do I give a shit? Okay. I think they're gouging locals as far as this goes. They want to get the out of towners. I've got no problem, but I think that for locals, they ought to have something where if you're a local, you get $10 off at least, or something like that.
I agree. They have a garage.
They won't do it. They won't do it.
Garage at just south of Trop and Valley View on Valley View. They have a garage there. When I mapped it last night, it's 0.6 of a mile walk. It's pretty easy. That's $50. Like, could it be 30? Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does it have to be 50?
But make it so there's the example. Make it 30 for locals.
Right.
Okay. If you got a valid Nevada driver's license, you get $30 instead of 50. Cool. That's not, you know what? Nobody would squawk. $30, not bad. That's not bad. I think 30. It's $30 to park at Petco, if I'm not mistaken. That's about right. That'd be fair. 50, 50 to walk a half a mile. I don't know.
Last night we were talking about the ride share, so I got the skinny on that one. There is a ride share lot, Uber Lyft ride share lot right where I just mentioned, just south of Tropicana and Valley View. So again, that's about 0.7 of a mile. That's the north ride share lot. They're going to have a south ride share lot, which is like 0.3 of a mile. It's right there. It's basically straight down Polaris, across Russell, right in that, nestled in those like 5 hotels there. So that's really short walk. And then apparently they're going to have an east pickup, which will be at Luxor and Mandalay. So there's actually going to be 3 or 4 different rideshare pickup spots.
So how does that work? I don't even know. I've never used rideshare, so I
have no idea if you go to the north or the south lot or the east. I don't know how they'll determine that one. And the other one we'll still have to find out about. If you're jacked up and you can't walk all that distance, even 0.3 of a mile, I'm assuming they have some sort of, handicap. Wrong word. Whatever.
What about somebody old who, what about somebody my age who might have trouble walking? I'm serious.
Now, you don't have trouble
those little vehicles.
I Yeah, they probably will.
I mean, I need to invest in one of those.
Yeah, I'll admit the Trop and Valley View area is not. It'll be cleaned up on game day, I'm sure. I actually did think about it though when I was driving. I was driving around there, like I said, like 1:15 by that point. I was kind of looking around. I'm like, okay, there's no one really here. There were a couple of weirdos walking around where you're like, this won't be great if you stay too late on a Monday night football game, opening night. You might want to get the hell out.
Trop and Valley View is right by those. That's that area where there's those weekly
Yes.
hotel deals.
Yes. And then there's the truck parking lot and the ladies who like to walk amongst the trucks. And but here's the other thing: the part like you don't think there's a Motel 6 that's on Dean Martin, and then there's Hotel Galaxy. You don't think those places are like, let's go?
Oh boy,
room and parking.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. The Howard Johnson's thing, they ought to reopen.
You know what's funny? I think the Howard Johnson that you're thinking of has been redeveloped.
Oh, I didn't know that. I never drive down there anymore.
That one's you're talking about. It was a corner of across from In-N-Out, basically.
Yeah. Industrial.
It's been completely redeveloped, and there's there's like joint hotels. They're beautiful hotels there.
Oh, good.
Big park garage. Oh, they're going to do a killing there. They're brilliant because that is, I mean, sweet spot. Walk right down Dean Martin.
That's perfect. That's the best place you can. And the Wild West. I think they'll be doing some good business on game days.
Yeah, you would think that they'll probably charge. I mean, they could probably charge $25 for parking. You know,
and they ought to, not for nothing, but ought to put some money into the place.
Yep. Because
it's a prime location, and it's gotten primer now, and it's kind of old.
Kind of.
might want to make some improvements and kind of clean out some of the people that you might not want to have there on game day.
Well, Brady jokes Wild Wild West able to make dollars if they demolished and made it into a big parking lot. They could make even more dollars actually if they started talking to the A's now, because that's where the stadium should go.
Yep.
That's the spot that I proposed a bunch of times, because if you built it there on Wild Wild West and that stupid truck parking lot, and then you could build a bridge, because if you actually go down there, you build a bridge that goes across the 15, and you could have a pedestrian bridge that connects T-Mobile and the Strip to Wild Wild West and a baseball stadium.
Yep. I got no argument against that one.
Yeah.
I mean, the other one is what? Wet and Wild? Is that the other possible location?
Wet and Wild down the Rio. The Rio's got, I mean, that piece of property at the Rio is gigantic.
Yep.
I don't know if they want to take down, Rio's older. It's not horrendous.
It's not
ancient. The newer towers, they aren't terrible.
No. It hasn't aged as well as you would have thought. It's not that old. I mean, it's what, 35 years old? Not even 35, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's not like one of the relics. But for whatever reason, it hasn't aged all that gracefully. I don't know why.
Yeah, by the way, Mr. G, stations the Fertitta zone, those lots, and like a lot of property going all the way up to Flamingo.
Yeah, and they're pretty good at developing. I think they're they have some expertise at developing property. I would say
they've got some property here that you don't even know about. They own a lot.
Yeah, so the families they know what they're doing. They're pretty sharp operators.
There are families who are real good at backing your business when you might be in some trouble. Hey, you need our help? Okay. Oh, wait. Now you're not doing so well? Okay. Well, we'll take over.
Well, that's part of business.
It's part of business.
It is. I mean, and by the way, they know it. Look, I mean, not for nothing, but I think they did pretty well in the UFC, didn't they?
They've done well in the UFC, and they've done well kind of wheeling and dealing. Now they moved on the Palms, and now they're going to build a Durango station. So,
yeah, that's going to be not all that far from me.
Frank 3 and Lorenzo are pretty smart. They're
and I will tell you,
they're pretty smart.
I will tell you that when Durango Station opens, it's not going to be all that far from me.
Yep.
Handful of miles. I'll be going there, and I'm sure I'll have a great time. Not to gamble. I don't care about the gambling, but I'll be sampling their restaurants and enjoying whatever other stuff they've got there, because they do. I mean, and just really, if nothing else, if you look at what they did with the old relic Palace Station, and that was really a seriously dilapidated property.
It
It
is
is
freaking
absolutely incredible what they did there.
when I-
Incredible. They
when I
put a lot of money into it, and it's beautiful.
Yep. It is really good. And that oyster bar still hums, and they got some nice restaurants in there. They actually
Although,
cleaned
from what I gather, is this accurate? No more buffets.
yeah, right now they say they're not doing buffets any of the stations, that's kind of terrible because it was one of their calling cards. The feast, especially at some of the nicer properties, was pretty good.
Although I just wonder if there's kind of maybe a different overall attitude now about buffets.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, there's a lot of people who they're sneezing all over the place and coughing, and it's one thing if they're doing it in open air, but on your food, I don't know. I have not even considered going to a buffet since this thing started, and I will tell you that no matter how much I've enjoyed some buffets over the years, I'd probably go into my last one because the habits of people at the buffets is not the best.
Yeah.
Even if the food's great.
One last thing, Dave, we'll let you go because I know you got your baseball coming up. Brady, I have no idea what happened tonight. You said, do we need another bridge over the 15 after it almost stopped fans from going to the game tonight? What happened? Because I was driving back from Samstown, and on the 95 going from east to west, I saw multiple signs. 15 is closed at Tropicana. I was like, oh shit, what is going on?
Was there an accident?
I don't know. I didn't get the check on it, so maybe Brady can fill us in. Does anyone know what the heck was going on? Closed? That ain't good. Oh no. Here we go.
A jumper?
Guy climbed over and was hanging to the outside. There you go. Jumper on the bridge.
That's the second one in like a handful of days, isn't it?
Which, it's funny? It's not funny because I don't want to see this happening. Yesterday, one of the things we talked about at Raider Stadium is Hacienda. When you walk out of the stadium, go on Hacienda, and then you start, you're crossing the 15 and you're going down towards Mandalay and Luxor. Adam and I were saying they better build the fences up there a lot. And I did check that out last night when I was driving across. They have the curled fences, and I'm like, that ain't high enough.
No,
like they're gonna have to put up some serious fencing because after a football game with everyone all lit up, and especially if Raiders fans are pissed because they lost, you don't want people being thrown on the 15.
No, that's a very good idea.
There was another one on the Durango and 90.
I remember. Yeah, I read about the one on Durango.
The 215 flyover is what? Oh, is that? Are you talking about up by the Centennial Bowl or the 215 flyover by the airport?
I don't know. I do know about the one on Durango, Durango/95.
What are people doing?
I don't know.
Centennial. Yeah, that's scary because those are pretty high.
Yeah, that jump isn't going to end well.
Oh my God.
I mean,
no, you're right, Scott. People are on the edge. You're right.
Yeah, well, what is that? I bet I'll let it go.
It's too late. I'm closing it. That's it. We'll see you. Dave, have a good weekend.